You're listening to the Dudes and Dads Podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMott and Andy Lehman.
Welcome back, guys. We are so sorry. It's actually so good to be back, Joel.
It's terribly good to be back. I've been itching. I've had the podcast itch, Andy.
If you've never podcasted, it's just like, it's great to be back in the studio. We feel like we haven't connected with you guys for a while.
Yep, so we're not dead.
We are here.
Contrary to what you've been hearing.
We are still
alive.
We are still alive. So, but hey, we wanted to thank you guys for all of you guys who stopped out to the Elkhart County Fair and used the Dudes and Dads at the Fair hashtag. We loved meeting you guys. We loved seeing you guys. There's a little we met a lot of people we did know. I mean, we saw a lot of people we knew.
Yes.
But then we also saw people that we didn't even know. People would come up to us and be like, "Hey, dudes and dads," and it was awesome. I met 2 or 3 people like that I didn't know before, but knew me because of my shirt.
Yeah, it was super funny. So one evening, we're over at I think you'll know what I'm talking about, Andy, over by the Elkhart County Parks, the turtle exhibit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
My kids could have stared at those turtles forever. And it was kind of relaxing, actually. There's nothing just better than watching turtles do their thing, I guess. But I'm over there, and there's a mom with her kids, a couple moms, actually, and she reads my shirt, and she goes, Dudes and Dads at the Fair. She goes, "Is that a thing?" And I go, "It is a thing."
We made it a thing.
And then I explained, I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of a thing we're running with our podcast." She goes, "What?" And then another mom goes, "Well, what's the name of the podcast?" And mind you, I don't know either one of these women. And I said, "Dudes and Dads podcast. We just talk about dude stuff and dad stuff and whatever." She goes, "I've seen that on the internet somewhere." And
really?
Yeah. And I'm like, Andy, somehow we're getting out there.
We are.
I don't know. Random people have seen us on the internet somewhere. So awesome though. And Andy is absolutely correct. It was so awesome just connecting with many of you that we've not met before. And that was kind of part of really for us, that was kind of part of the gig, was getting a chance just to interact with new people and get the word out. So.
Right. And yeah, I had a lot of people ask about what it is and comment about it. It was great. So, but we did that. We had our shirts on for a reason.
Hashtag Dudes and Dads at the Fair.
Everyone who uploaded a post to their social media with that hashtag was entered into a drawing. And so we had lots of entries. Joel, can you tell us about our winner, though?
Do we have a drum roll?
No, I'm sorry.
It's one of the sounds.
I need to get one of those.
We'll have to get a drum roll. So we are super excited to announce that our good friend Evan Brown has won the hashtag Dudes and Dads at the Fair giveaway.
So Joel, tell him what he wins, please.
Oh, I will. I'm super excited. Evan, you win a high quality haircut from our good friend Daniel over at Concrete Barber. If you want to check out Concrete Barber, by the way, my good friends, he's got a great Facebook page, and concretebarber.com. You can get a stylish men's haircut right here in Goshen at Concrete Barber. And so we're just say a big thank you to Daniel for offering that as part of the win. But Evan, not only do you win a fantastic haircut,
Tell him what else he wins, Joel.
Oh,
I'm excited.
I will, Andy. I know you're on the edge of your seat.
Literally.
You're going to get we've got a gift card we're going to throw in there for you to something local and amazing. But you also, Evan, wait for this, Andy. I know. I'm
excited.
Evan also gets a dinner out with the Dudes and Dads podcast host, Andy and I. He gets a dinner out, with us, and also gets to invite a friend along. So we're going to have dinner with the Dudes and Dads host. I know. What more could you possibly ask for?
He should go get his haircut first so he's looking fresh and looking sharp.
That's right. So we can have, so get that haircut done, Evan, and then let's move on. We'll do dinner. We'll shower you with gifts and prizes. It's going to be amazing. So congratulations, Evan. Thanks for playing. Everybody who participated, it was awesome. We were just like being mauled at random points along our fair experience. People grabbing photos and just giving kind words of encouragement. So, hey, thank you, one and all. We look forward to our next contest, which will be down the road. We love doing this sort of thing, and we love if there, any of you that are listening are like, hey, I would love to give, maybe you own a business, have a service, whatever, and you're like, hey, I would love to give some stuff away. We're more than happy to promote you on the Dudes and Dads podcast.
Yes, and hopefully next time we can also get somebody who's not local, because this was a very specific local contest.
Right.
But we want to also take the time to remind you that this episode is brought to you by you. That is right. We have Patreon set up so that at dudesanddadspodcast.com/support, you can join several other Patreons, and for $2, $5, $10, and $15 a month, you gain lots of different things. As a thank you, you get a mention on the show, you get behind-the-scenes videos and extra bonus shows, and sometimes a coffee cup, depending on which level of those you support us at. But we do want to thank each and every one of you Patreon supporters. You make this show possible.
We're so grateful for you, and Andy and I are in the let's just say we're deep into the marketing studio of our Dudes and Dads podcast merch. Mostly my children just asking, when will the Dudes and Dads t-shirts come out, because they want to wear them to school.
Yes. My kids want some too.
Fantastic. So lots of good stuff coming your way for those of you that want to get on the Patreon bandwagon. So grateful for the support, guys. So thank you so much.
All right, so tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about kids and devices. And so by devices, what I mean is smartphones, tablets, Kindle Fires, anything that, even TV. I mean, back in the day, Joel, that's all we had was the TV. We didn't have a smartphone, but
only
still,
to be back in those days.
But still, that was still a concern of our parents, how much time we were spending on the TV. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight. We are in no means perfect at this. We definitely fail sometimes at this. And so we thought this would be a great episode to talk, and we would love to hear your feedback too. You can always send us an email at dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com. Send us a voicemail memo there too, because we would love to get it played on the show next episode. So we're going to start a little bit with some stats tonight, and I'm sure we've heard some of these stats before, but in a typical day, children consume just over 3 hours of media. This includes computer use, cell phone use, tablet use, music, reading. 2/3 of this time is spent with screen media, which is like TV, computers, internet, et cetera, like that, while reading is less than 20 minutes a day.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, so Andy, let's get real here at the beginning, because I feel like I have just like a ton to confess in the area. Well, let's just say this. I am just going into this conversation between you and I, assuming that your family is handling this whole thing way better than I am, because when I'm becoming more and more aware, I guess, that my kid, the amount of time that they're on devices, particularly when I'm not aware of it, where they're, and the big thing right now is that, like, if I ever set my cell phone down,
it's gone.
It's gone.
I've seen it. They're like ninjas. Your kids are
it's
ninjas.
Amazing. I've had my kids pickpocket me with my phone in the back pocket.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm like talking to somebody, and so I'm not like super, super aware, and it's like boom.
Next minute it's just gone. Yeah, I know. I've seen it happen. So I appreciate you confessing that. And so we'll talk some more about that and talk about what we can do.
True confessions.
Tell me. I appreciate you confessing that, though, because, I mean, yeah, I do. And so moving on with those stats, the time spent on a screen dramatically increases from the toddler to preschool age years. Children under 2 have a screen time average of 53 minutes a day. This increases almost 2.5 times per day among 2 and 4-year-olds, and almost 3 hours for kids in the 5 to 8-year-old range. That's a lot.
Yeah, and you just see it progressing. Obviously, like I think about my kids at their elementary school, and obviously their use of so every student gets an iPad, and the use of those iPads increases as they go on in school, and the amount of time that they are asked to take their iPads home as well. So that's part of it. And and it is, again, there's educational use that's for that, but it's the constant presence of having those devices around
It's a temptation because if they're around, they're gonna want to use it, and
Right.
we have the same thing. So our kids have Kindles, and my oldest 13-year-old has a phone. He doesn't have a phone with a phone plan, but he has an old cell phone of one of ours, and he uses that on our Wi-Fi. And when we're out, it's great because we're able to be able to text him and stuff when because he's just at that age where he's able to stay home and kind of be in charge of the other kids when we step out for a little bit. And
Right.
And so we do rely on that. But yeah, it's our kids have those devices also.
Yeah, and I just I'm thinking about from the educational perspective. I mean, something my kids go to super quickly whenever I'm like, guys, seriously, you've been on that forever. They're like, well, we're doing educational XYZ thing,
Right.
And it's like, well, what do I say to that? I mean, I know what I say to that is like, you've still been on that forever. Like, get off.
Right. And I think that's important to remember too, and enforce as parents, because just because we're on it and doing quote unquote educational things doesn't mean it's not degrading for us. I mean,
Right.
me as an adult, I use the computer all day,
Right.
and I can see how that, like, even when I come home, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go and watch YouTube or something now
Right.
because it's not the same thing, but it's still, for me, it's still media, and it's still being on the computer. And I think for us as parents, we need to do the same thing. We need to say, no, look, hold up. This is still, you're still using the device and being on the device and being antisocial. And I think that's what I've seen it a lot, is where you're on a device and you're antisocial.
Yeah, and because I mean, all of us are aware, and you do enter your own world when you're on those things, and being present in the fullest sense with other people just kind of goes out the window. And I'm realizing that I mean, this is the thing. Like, I'm going about my day when we're at home, when the kids are at home, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, it's a little too quiet around here.
Where are my kids?
Where are my kids? And it's because I literally will go in a room if they've. And the thing is like, I have a pin lock, like I have a biometric lock on my phone, but you can also do the pin, like the secondary pin
and
lock,
they know
right?
it.
They know it, and I don't know. And then I'm having to change it all the time, and it's like
Then you forget it.
Then I'm like, oh, which one am I on now? And the deal is because they are. It's like they're literally looking to see if they can figure out my pin, like, and that like so now I've got to be. And this is what makes me feel like it's like my kids have like a drug addiction. Like there's like this, like they have to have it, and I'm just concerned, like. This really snuck up on me. I mean, I was like Andy in the last couple of weeks, like I've really had to look at it and go like something has fundamentally shifted here, where they're preferring, either playing a game or watching YouTube, overdoing other activities like, reading, like building things with their hand, like doing like tactile things like that.
So let me ask you this. So as adults now, we, obviously these children, these phones and stuff were not available when we were kids.
Right.
The phone hung on the wall and it had a cord when I was, in high school.
I had to explain that to middle schoolers that I thought it was hilarious.
but no, I mean, for real, like it wasn't like it is today.
No.
And so do you think as adults, I mean, for one, I know I'm using my phone a lot, and I really appreciate the Apple screen time because it allows me to see, and like it gives me a report every week, and it gives me a report every week and tells me how much I've used my phone. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, but it also says like I can set limits on my apps per app or per category. So I can say like, okay, social media, only let me have that an hour a day. And it's amazing. Like there'd be times it's like 9:30 in the morning, and it's like you're 5 minutes from your time to be, cut off from your Facebook, and it amazes me. And so I'm wondering, as adults and parents, do we sometimes use this as a pacifier, like where we're just like, go do this, like go, yeah, that's fine. I don't want to deal with your junk. I don't want to deal with you screaming. It's easier for me to say, no, just use this device here so that we can get on with our business and I can do my quote unquote adult things. I mean, do you find, I know that I have in the past found myself doing
it works because it literally works every time. Like it can provide a quick solution every single time to getting them to stop doing what they're doing that is otherwise, not helping me get done whatever it is I'm trying to do. And then, I guess on top of that, it's really a matter of, they'll be quiet for a good long time unless they start fighting over the device, which is a whole
which happens. But I mean, I've seen my kids even today. I walked in the room and the boys were playing a game or something, watching a video on the phone together. Like they were just sitting, kind of actually behaving, and it was like, hey, you're getting along.
They're never they're never like when they are getting along. It is often around the phone now because they all have realized that they have to work together to watch, at the same time.
So let's go a little bit back to the stats. So on average, and I'm not making this up, this is actually what it says, children are 12.1 years old when they receive their first mobile device. I don't know where the 0.1 comes from, but at 12.1 when they receive their first mobile device, and 56% of children ages 8 to 12 have a cell phone.
Is that true?
That's what from the sources, and we'll link to the sources. It probably is.
They got it from somewhere, right?
And we'll link to the sources in our show notes over at dudesanddads.podcast.com. But I know for us, we've said for a cell phone, you have to be 13. And so, and even when I say cell phone, I'm using it loosely. I'm using it as again, we're not have a plan now. I mean, we've talked about having one soon, but that's kind of outside of this. But for him, I mean, he has got the cell phone, but the others have Kindle Fires that they have. They have access to an old iPad. Like there are things that they can do, and they have access to these mobile devices. My daughter is 3 years old and she has her own Kindle. I mean, granted, we have a lot of parental things on it. It's locked down,
right?
But still, she has a Kindle, and a lot of times we have to say, no, you can't use that because we find it. She wants it a lot of times, or wants to watch a thing. And again, it's easy as parents to say, yeah, sure, just use it because I'm doing something else and don't deal with it.
You'll be quiet, and I know that you'll. And by the way, you're almost guaranteed to find them in the exact same spot that you left them
until the battery runs out and they want the charge.
It's like they go quiet and they go non-mobile, which is really
it's easy to find them when they're like that.
Yeah.
Well, and this one I found was really interesting too. That 38% of children under 2 use a mobile device for media. And again, that backs up what I'm saying. I mean, like my daughter was, I think 2, maybe 2 when she got her Kindle. She's 3 now. And I also found this one interesting. Dads are more likely to give their kids smartphones in elementary school, while moms are more likely to give their kids smartphones in middle school. What do we think? I mean, I would say probably for dads, it's again so for dads, it's going to be giving them earlier in elementary and moms in middle school. And I think that's probably because moms are more like, we want to be able to get a hold of you in middle school, as where dads are like, hey, use this device so I don't have to deal with you. Like, I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
And I know I have been guilty of that, in times where I'm like, hey, use this device because it's easy.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking through that. Like, there's, because from I guess if I were to like sort of remove my own experience from that situation, and quite honestly, I hear myself going, there is no way in the world I would ever give an elementary kid a cell phone. Like it seems to me like you were just asking for so many problems.
Well, and granted, I was out of high school, I think, and I still had to buy my own cell phone.
Right.
And I could play, it was a Nokia, I could play Snake on it.
I remember that.
But it had no internet. And I mean, think about this, Joel. Like, we live in a society that's addicted not only to the internet and Facebook, but then you have cyberbullying and also, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it because you're a youth pastor.
Yep.
But we have all these things, and we have now, I mean, like, growing up, like, those of us who wanted to look at porn or things that we shouldn't, we had to go find it, and now it finds us.
Right.
Like, it finds our kids. It can, be in their room.
Yeah. And I think really behind all of this is my biggest concerns are, because what was it just the other day? So, my kids watch these popular YouTubers, that are constantly like, they're doing they're building crazy big forts on their YouTube channel, or they like, a lot of it's like harmless, like kind of creative, weird stuff. But, But then I'm like noticing the other day, what was it? They're like in the feed underneath the video was like where there's like recommended, like people who watch this also watch this. And some of the stuff I'm like, no,
not wanting my kid to watch that.
Not wanting my kid. It was just like a click away. Like it was immediately visible, like the description of whatever. And I'm like, no, and then I just think to myself, I'm like, I really start coming to a place of real concern about, I have a soon-to-be 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old boy, boys. And it's like, I have a real concern about what they're exposed to and how I can keep them safe. Though it almost feels like, Andy, it almost feels like they're going to see something eventually.
Right. Well, they're going to. Even think about the fact, like, our TV now, our commercials, our TV shows, like the stuff that is on. I was watching Family Feud the other day, and
that seems harmless enough.
Right. And I'm not going to say it on here because it's kind of, I know kids listen to this show, but there's stuff that was on there that I'm like, this is not family friendly.
Right.
And so and going back to the YouTube thing, like we hand them the phone to look at YouTube, they watch XYZ video about fort building, and then the recommended, even if the recommended isn't like objectionable, like then they click that. Next thing you know, they're not watching anything.
You're deep down the rabbit hole,
and who knows what's going to come up. So I think that, like, as parents, we not only need to not use it as a pacifier, and that's going to be, I think, my like mantra throughout this show is don't use it as a pacifier. And I realize I'm talking to parents of younger kids when I say don't use it as a pacifier. Because obviously, you got kids that are in middle school and high school, it's not really necessarily going to be a pacifier issue, because it's going to be more of something along the lines of, they're doing it, they're just going to do it. But I think this brings up a good point also. Let's talk a little bit about parental controls. So
what are those, Andy?
So me being in IT. So
yes, thank you.
Let's talk about a little bit about the stats. So while a vast majority of teens, that's 90%, say that their parents trust them to be responsible online. Right. I'm going to laugh about that.
Yep.
45% of them said that they would change something about their online behavior if their parents were watching.
100%.
So that means that they're not going to do what they're doing normally when their parents are watching. So we know that things need to be locked down a little bit for them. And I think starting really locked down and gradually moving it up is as we talk about responsibility online, because I think that's important too. As parents, we need to talk about responsibility online and what happens online. We need to be honest with our kids that there are people out there that want to come and get them. Right. The people do want to contact with them, and they can on the internet really easily.
Absolutely. And I think part of the challenge is that as we enter into these conversations, it is also us as parents having to acknowledge that there are dark things out there, and that that our children are that their minds and their hearts and their very souls are being fought for, at multiple and within multiple avenues at multiple levels. And to try to, like, I just think, like, to try to explain to my eldest son, who's almost 10, like, buddy, there's bad stuff out here, and I don't want it to hurt you,
right?
And like, and for him, he gets so like, whenever I have like I'm trying to figure out how to have serious conversations with him, because it's like he gets scared. Like he gets scared.
There's a fine balance between being honest and open with him and being like, there's someone gonna
like they will kidnap you, or whatever. And
which is the truth, but you also don't want to scare him too.
Yeah, and so it's like, not being fearful. I've been going back to it. Wise as serpent, gentle as dove, and just being real and open and honest, and at the same time, like, not causing harm. But I keep coming back to the, like, I know that we've got to figure something else out. Number one, I would say this: my wife and I have to have a game plan together, because this is the other thing, is that, like, if there's any inconsistency, if we don't have that plan, if there's any inconsistency between the two of us,
the kids are going to find
that. They do. Oh my word, they do. And so it's like, okay, we have to go back to the drawing board on that, of saying we both agree that these are the following rules. Because right now it's when my 3 boys get home, I mean, they're going. It's like they've been on that 40-minute bus ride home. They've been jonesing for some technology the whole time,
which I think, I mean, is an okay thing in moderation. Like, I think that, like, I mean, you and I mean, think about it. Why do we binge Netflix at night? Like, I mean, we do it, and it's not, binging isn't necessarily okay, but I mean, you come home from work and you want to just chill out a little bit, and I think that that's okay for the kids too.
Yeah.
But I think that we need to be super vigilant as far as like what they're watching, not use it as a pacifier, like I said before, because I think that that's super important. And then, yeah, I think we just need to kind of monitor the content and have controls too. So another thing that I have found is that among parents with children less than 8 years old, they say that they use the following methods to control the media content that they access. 57% say that they watch or play the content first. 34% of parents listen to the recommendations from friends. 31% of parents rely on the reputation of the company. 25% of the parents allow the child to find it themselves. 13% of the parents check the website reviews, and 5% of parents check newspapers or magazine reviews. So I didn't know anyone read newspapers anymore, but apparently they do.
Wow.
But anyways, so, and then, yeah, I think that I think that's important as parents, not only to have limits on the devices. So for me, when we, I have to admit, I'm not as good with the Amazon or the Google type devices like Amazon Kindle and Android and things like that, because I'm an Apple person. But so with Micah, he has an old iPhone, and I've got it locked down so he can't use the web browser. He also can't just use Siri to search the phone. He has screen time limiting his time, and we've actually gone in and expanded that time from what it originally was. Originally it was like 8:30 to 9 o'clock, or 8:30 to 8 in the morning, or whatever. He couldn't play it. We've gone on and said he can play on it a little bit longer now. We've not allowed him to add anything himself. He can go in and look at the store, and so he can kind of search for things that might be in the store that he wants to look at. But he has to ask for our approval first. We have to put it in. Usually what I do is I look through it and I see, as I'm looking at the store, I look and say, okay, this looks good or not. I mean, you can kind of tell some.
Right.
I may or may not install it first. A lot of times he gets things that I've already downloaded anyways, because he's like, hey, I've put this on your phone. Can I get it too?
Yep.
So that's kind of nice when it comes to things like that. So Joel, like, what, as far as do your kids have any devices at all themselves?
So let's see here. They do have a laptop that we got for them, and now like they have iPads that they have at school that they bring home, and that'll, since our school year has started, that will start up again.
But those devices are probably locked down pretty good.
Yeah, and it's sort of weird. I've thought about trying to see, I don't like to explore that a little bit. Like, I know that sounds weird, but it's like, what are the actual, because you do sign, like every student and parent sign a usage agreement at the beginning of the year. And that usage agreement is like, it's like pretty clear, what that iPad is to be used for and what it's not to be used for. And that does include like your communications with other students, and that includes the whole cyberbullying thing and all of that. But I have just wondered, like, is it like, I'm being told it's secure, but isn't it like, isn't like,
shouldn't it be, your
incumbent upon me as a parent to be like, okay, yeah, you can't just go to any old site or any old thing that, that they're wondering, or if they Google certain keywords, what happens, kind of thing. So
you may get a call from their from their principal and say, "Hey, your son
it was me.
I was actually testing it out."
Yeah, sure you were, but yeah. So there's those. They have their own laptop that they share, and then they've got, and then they. Occasionally they're using either my phone or their mom's phone. And like the phone usage thing, that's probably the cell phone thing is where we have to figure out a game plan together, I think, most often, because a lot of times it's like when Jackie and I are, like, let's say, doctor's office. There's a great example, right? It's a doctor's appointment for one of the kids, and I have all 4 of them with me, or 3 of them, or whatever the case might be. It's like, I really just need them to sit here for 15 minutes and not mess with anything while I do the whole doctor thing. And
okay, but here's the thing. So what did we do? I mean, my parents, I'm of 2 kids. I have a younger sister.
Yep.
I almost called her older. She's younger.
She's grateful for that.
Right, I'm sure. So she probably doesn't listen to the podcast, but if she does,
but she should. Get on the stick.
Anyway, so but what did we do beforehand? I mean, obviously we didn't have these things growing up. So I'm looking back on these things thinking, okay, so what did I do?
That's a good point.
We either brought something with us or we were really super bored. I mean, I remember going through Joann fabrics.
My gosh, Joann fabrics. I'm having a flashback.
You're melting down now. My mom is looking at patterns.
Yes,
and
this is gosh.
Like, we share this, don't we?
Oh my gosh, I know exactly. Could you flip through those patterns any slower, please?
And what did we do? We're sitting there super bored, counting our fingers and toes and whatever else. But I mean, we did it. And I'm thinking, like, what can we do now these days? So we could do the same thing. We could take things along, books. That's super good. Like, our kids are all readable age. They can all read,
right?
Or most of us,
or look at a picture book, anyway.
Right? Exactly. Like the older kids of ours, both can read. All of them can read, except for our youngest 2. They can look at picture books. They can do things. They can bring other things along. But it's funny. I mean, I find that, like, we're driving to the car to church, which is like 10 minutes away or 15 minutes away, and my kids want to bring toys in the car or their iPhone or whatever. And it's like, guys, like, we're literally only 10 minutes from church.
Yeah.
So
and I think I'm wondering about I'm wondering about boredom in general. So I've actually talked on boredom before. I've given
the talk.
I've given some talks on boredom to older students because here's the deal. Boredom terrifies us, and especially as we get older, like, boredom is the place where, like, the like our brain starts working through some stuff, and if we don't like what our brain is working through, we will we don't want to do it. We don't want to do that, so put the screen in front of me. Because boredom is actually an invitation, and I've used this term here before, but boredom is an invitation into using executive attention, which literally means how we begin to think about thinking, like, hey, why do I think this thing about this thing? And then we start processing a little bit deeper. So it's like a deeper level of thought. But with kids, boredom is the entry into creativity, right? And my concern is that if we're not helping them learn how to navigate boredom well, we're also not, like, helping them enter into, because boredom should, in the right context, if you can allow yourself to crawl into it deep enough, is the place where you go, hey, what about this, or this?
Right. Well, and the same thing happens. So for us, we're like, during the summer, it's like, I'm bored. For one, we say, you say that again, you're going to have to wash the dishes, or you're going to do the full, whatever.
I'll show you bored.
Right, exactly. And so we do that, but then we also say, go outside. Like, and if you're bored, go outside, do your own thing, make something up. You got the whole acre to run around,
right? Do
things. You can probably even sneak off and walk down the road, probably. Right. Things like that, where you're gonna be creative. You're gonna find a tree to put a tree fort in. I mean, right. I enjoy that. I didn't like when my kids nailed some boards to the tree. I was at first like kind of banging my head, like, duh. But then I was like, no, do that.
Yeah.
Because this is what your childhood is made of.
That's right. Go climb things. Go skin your knee. Get in the dirt. That kind of thing.
It works. But we're. I think as parents, like, we need to allow that to happen, and we need to allow. Cause, I mean, I'm scared of seeing what's going to happen when these kids grow up and don't have any idea what to do besides go. I mean, we already see it we didn't grow up with these phones, Joel,
Right.
and like we are face down in these phones. And it's ridiculous. We sit in a room, we go out and hang out with our friends. We go to the room and we're all,
Yep.
what are we doing? We have our face down to the phone.
Yeah, we went over to so Andy, Matt, and we were over at Matt and Courtney's the other night, and I specifically, the boy, like I had the phone sitting on the kitchen table, and I could see one of my kids, whoever, going for it. I was like, no, that's staying here. Now, I did it because, quite honestly, my wife is like, could you just leave your phone here so we can? And I'm like, that is a perfectly fair request. Okay, so I was leaving the phone just so we could go and actually have conversation with people. And it was great. It was wonderful. But yeah, I'm part of it is leading by example, and I think as I'm thinking through it, it's like I just need to make it somehow. I think it needs to become more regular that my phone is just gone someplace. It surprisingly comes up missing, and I will live. And I think it's just, it goes to the deeper issue of I don't need to be connected to it all the time. I mean, I'm checking emails all the time, and it's like
we don't need to.
I don't need to do that. Right. I could have scheduled times where I check those, and that's it. And it'll be okay.
So I challenge you to do that.
Fantastic. Oh, here we go. Guys, if you haven't noticed, every once in a while, Andy and I find these great opportunities to challenge each other in something for personal growth. And it's a beautiful thing. But here it is. Now, 2 weeks from now, I have to report back in true accountability and honest fashion about what I did to use my cell phone less.
For good.
Game on. All
right, great. Well, okay, so going back a little bit to when we were talking earlier about talking to your kids about online safety and things like that, the stat here that I have says 93% of parents say that they talk to their teens about online safety. Yay, great.
Good.
Well, only 61% of teens report having this conversation. So there's a disconnect here somewhere. We have 93% say that they do, but only 61% of the kids remember that. Now, I mean,
yep,
I get that. I mean, our kids don't listen all the time. Kids don't listen. They say that they listen, but you could look at them face to face, say something, and they'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, I mean, I'm sure that there's that plays into it, but I think that sometimes parents think that they talk to their kids about safety and they haven't.
Yeah. And even I think you got to bang the drum again and again and again. I think you got to say it regularly, say it frequently. I mean, with most things with communication with kids, I mean, we have to repeat it multiple times. We absolutely do. Like put the seat up. So, I just think that we have to say it frequently. We have to communicate those things regularly, but we have to just be very clear, and together, especially, if it's with mom and dad or whoever the guardians are, of having the same message, being on board with the same plan. This is when you are to use it. This is when you are not to use it. This is how much you can use it. And by the way, parents, be ready to have your kids hate you for a little bit.
Right. And you may need to pull that away from them. Like, you may need to take their device and say, no, I'm using this. Like, you can't use this. Like, you need to respect me. Like it happens. And we've taken Mike as away before because of, usually it's from outside circumstances. So usually it's more as a punishment for something else, not like something that happened on the phone.
Yeah. And leveraging screen time is that's the silver lining in all of this is, hey, if you want the time, don't do the crime. Don't do the crime.
Well, and for us too. So I think that you have a couple different camps. You as parents when you have younger kids, you need to do more of the limiting, where you can say like, okay, I'm limiting this to, an hour a day or whatever that looks like, or after you get your homework done, you can do that. Limit that, put some limits on that. Like you said, Joel, make sure that they see you doing the same thing. So you're not just like, I'm going to be using my phone, when I should be paying attention to my family. I think that's super important. But I think, so as parents of young kids, that's where our responsibility lies, as having those set time out, if you will, where you're saying this is a schedule that we use for our devices. You can have devices, you can look at them, but it's only XYZ or during this time. I say, and I think it's super important, and it's a little bit different with a cell phone, but I think it's super important anything that can get on the internet shouldn't be in their rooms.
Yeah.
Like whether it's a laptop or a cell phone or whatever, it shouldn't be in their rooms.
Yep.
And that's hard with a cell phone because, I mean, they're going to have it in their pocket. They're going to walk in there.
Yep.
So we've not really had to navigate that yet so far because he can't get on the internet with it. I mean, he can watch, he can listen to music, he can do things like that, but he can't get on the internet.
Yeah, I was just talking with another dad the other day who I consider to be a pretty involved father, and his teenage son knows. The phone charging station is down here in the living room, and you come home with that, it sets there. If you want to be on your phone, you're sitting in this room with the rest of us, and but it's not going upstairs.
No, I think that kind of there are some ways that you can do it. I think that we can even talk about this now. So one of the things, I have a section here that we're going to talk about things that you can do as parents, and one of them is locking down the phone. And I think that one of the things that you can do is you can get a specific browser that is, I want to say, adult free. Like it basically is it's
filters out.
Filters out. Yeah. So it's called I think the K9 browser. I'll look it up and put it in our show notes.
Yeah.
But I think it's by Blue Coat. But there's other ones along the same lines.
Mm-hmm.
And that will allow you to set restrictions and things like that. So they can get on the internet, but things that are going to be adult content where they shouldn't be seeing them,
right?
It's going to limit them. It's going to let you know things like that. So I think that's super important, and that is where I think one thing, if you had that set, you could have them allow them to go into their room or whatever with it.
And Andy, this just makes me think about too. I mean, as far as we're talking about concerns with adult content, having like accountability software on your computer in general. And I think this can start with young men. I think this can start with teenage boys. Good golly, I wish that I would have jumped on that a lot sooner, before I got into college. And I just think there are the resources out there. I mean, just as you just mentioned here, the resources are out there. It's just incumbent we've got to do some digging. We've got to as parents be like, this is my job. I'm going to educate myself just like I would educate myself on any other part of their health. Like if your child had a particular, like for instance us, we've got a kid with a peanut allergy. Well, we learn as much as we can about peanut allergy stuff, we try to be savvy about that stuff, or any other health concern. Consider this a health concern. This is like a technology health thing. Take the time to understand and to be conscious about settings and how they work and what your kids are and are not able to do.
Right, and I think you need to test those things out and do it. I think that as parents, you need to say when you give them the device, this is yours to use, but it's yours to use.
Right.
Like you can use it, but at any time I can grab it and I can look through it.
Right.
So don't hide things. And I know that there's software out there and there's stuff to hide things. I mean, I'm in IT. I know that there's stuff out there and ways to circumvent this stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, we need to be able to look at their phone anytime we want, look through the pictures, make sure that they're not taking pictures of things that they shouldn't be taking.
Right.
If they have social media, maybe look at their social media accounts and make sure that they're not posting things that they shouldn't post. Things like that. I think that is part of our responsibility as parents. Now, again, as they get older, like that may be less and less, and depending on how the kid is. I mean, but again, we talked about that. The stats are saying like kids would change their behavior if their parents were around. So like be that responsible parent and take the phone and say, hey, I'm going to look and see, what's going on your phone. And I've done that sometimes. I've taken Micah's and I've looked at it and things like that. You have to do that. And I think so you need to lock down the phone a little bit. And again, this is kind of age dependent. I mean, you can go ahead and allow more as they get older. We're even talking about right now allowing Micah to have an email address if he needs it. Because he's going to start needing it for doing more and more things. And so we're going to allow him to have that email address and things like that. I think we need to, again, I'm going back to don't use your phone. Don't use the phone as a pacifier. Don't use your phone as a pacifier.
Right.
Say no, set your limits, stick to them.
Yep.
If they're being bad, parent them.
Yes, right.
I mean, do something about it.
Be a parent.
Yeah. Don't allow the Apple to be your parent for your kids. Like you need to stick with those things. You need to say, this is this is what it is. This is what we're doing. Like, no, you're not going to use your phone, even though it may be easier and I don't have to, whine. Like, no, stick to those things.
Right.
Do it.
And I mean, there's a lot of good research out there, even in terms of late night use. I know a lot of kids, like through adolescent years, are, I hear from even from my own students, they're binging Netflix until 2 a.m., and then and then it's like they're tired, and it's like, yeah, amazing, and but I just think of, I think of the fact that they're spending late nights on that. They're limiting the amount of proper sleep that they're getting, but there's also good research to say, like, staring at a screen, like neurologically, before you go to bed is like the worst possible thing that you could do.
Right. And first thing in the morning too.
Yeah. It's like it's like your brain does not go to good places and does not function well with that in front of it as its first stimuli. And the other thing I would say is, this comes from a conversation I had with an educator, last week. He part of a school system that has the 1-to-1, so they'll have mobile. Well, they have what do they have? Chromebooks? Yeah, they'll have laptops. Anyway, they come home. Parents send in angry emails like, "Could you my kid is not going to bed. He's on that laptop until 2-3 a.m. Like, could you not send them these laptops home?" And the response is, parent your child, right? Like, there seems to be some, and I get it, but there seems to be like a high resistance amongst many to step in and take the thing away and say, nope, you have it from this time to this time, and that's it. And I get it, because I've taken stuff away from my kids, and it's like it's full on meltdown. It's like there's like, in which to me it's like, man, that strong of a reaction actually indicates to me that we're like dealing with like addiction level dependence.
Right.
So yeah, it's just like boundaries make for a happy life, just in general, and a healthier family.
Right. And so to go on that too, again, use screen time if you've got an Apple device. I don't know if there's similar things for Android or not, because again, I don't know Android. But
typical.
Hey, what can I say? I'm a fanboy. But use those things. The nice thing about the Apple thing is if you're on a family Apple ID plan, I can from my phone change the things, or I can lock them down now. Right. I can request if you request more screen time for something like for instance, he's been at grandma and grandpa's house and wanted to do XYZ on the app, and I can say, yeah, that's fine, go ahead, even though it's after your set allowed time
to
use it. So that's nice about that. The other thing that I would say is use Open DNS in your house, and this is going to be a
I like where we're going with this, Andy.
Super techie, but super quick.
Love it.
DNS is this. So when you type in www.google.com, it has to know what the address is for that. So in the IP, so it's kind of like your house address.
Right.
Your house has a number. So when you type in www.google.com, there's DNS servers, which stands for domain name system. So it goes out and looks up and says, okay, the IP address for the google.com is 4.4.4.4 or whatever.
Right.
And so OpenDNS allows you to use their servers, and you can set so you do that you can do it on the computer itself or the device itself, but you can set it in your router too.
Yep.
And so then when anything that's on your Wi-Fi, when you look up any web address, it uses their servers, and you can set parental limits with that. So you can say, like, I don't want adult sites to show up, or I don't want social media, or weapons, or whatever you want.
Yep.
And when you try to look that up, it'll return a page saying, nope, you're not allowed. So that's nice, because it allows any device in your house. So let's say your friend has Jimmy over, and Jimmy's doing something he shouldn't do.
That Jimmy kid, I knew he looked suspicious.
Right. Well, when Jimmy's over, he might be trying to do something. If he's on your Wi-Fi, he's not going to be able to get to the site that he's trying to get to. So again, if he's got his own cell phone plan, that's not going to work. But it works really great for other things, and just a general overall protection for everybody in your house. So it's nice. It helps out you and I as men who may or may not have it helps us out too. So I think that's one good thing. And then I would say, again, and we touched on this briefly, is use the safe browsers on the phone. So look, there's plenty of them out there. K9 is one of them. I think it's by Blue Coat Systems, but there's plenty of them out there that will allow you to kind of do web filtering with the browsers. And then so what you would do is, let's say you had an iPhone, you would have this installed, and then you would go into the parental filters and say, don't show Safari, like don't allow Safari, and don't allow other apps to be installed. So then the kids can't install their own web browser, but they have to be using this K9 filter. So
gotcha.
Those are just some steps that I would come up with. Joel, do you have any quick ideas, any tips to help kind of control these things?
I think, again, I'm in friends, I just want you to hear this like as honestly as I can possibly say it, is this particular issue has gotten away from me. We're trying. There's so many things that we're trying to do well in the lives of our children, trying to guide them, give them guidance, trying to keep them safe, trying to keep them healthy, help them succeed academically, all of those things, that we have an eye on. This is a thing that has gotten away because it's another thing that feels like we have to put forth some real effort. And sometimes as parents, I know all of us are in this boat. We just feel like we don't have the energy. We feel like we're like on E, and it's one more fight that I have to have. Here's what I want to say: this fight is worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
It is, and I think overall, it's going to be one of those things that you're going to be glad that you did. You may be the parent that's looked down on right now. You may be the kids. Your kids may not like you for doing this, but you're saving them in the long run. You're saving not only them from looking up things that they're not supposed to look at, but you're also saving them from just getting addicted to this stuff. And I see adults like us all the time are like, I'm going to be exiting Facebook for a month.
Right.
I need this detox, if you will.
Yep.
Let's stop that now.
Right.
From let's show that. Again, it goes back to being an example. You and I, Joel, have to be an example to our kids.
Yeah.
You and I have to show them that this is not okay.
Yeah. And I just, I want my kids to be able to have something called a conversation. Right. To be able to sit across from other people and to be able to converse and go deep places with people and to interact. And I just, I think that we can help them. We can empower them to be able to do that and to be adults by just being wise in how we guide them through technology and with devices and all of it. So, guys, we just want to be an encouragement to you. Stay strong in this fight. It is worth the time. It is worth the effort. Do the research. We've got some. Andy will have some great show notes and resources here at dudesanddads.com to check out.
Dudes and Dads podcast.
Dudes and Dads podcast. It would have been nice. Dudes and Dads. Dudes and Dads podcast. .com. Definitely check out the show notes for this episode. But yeah, valuable conversation, my friend. Yeah. Valuable.
And we would love to hear your thoughts on this, your experiences too. So shoot us an email, dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com. And again, open up your voice memo app on your phone. Leave us a voice message and just send it via email to dudesanddadspodcast.com or dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Guys, as always, we love you. We're so grateful for you. Thanks for joining us again. Grace and peace.